Salmon. Tuna. Huma huma, nuka nuka, appa wa'a. These aren't song titles of the early aughts. These are types of fish. Hi, I'm Pooter Schmood, and as a young kid, I felt it in my heart, in my soul, in my spirit, that my job on this realm was to save small betta fish from those tiny little plastic cups that you can sometimes get little mochi ice creams in, and instead bring them to my home and nurse them back to health. I was somewhat of a betta fish collector, and for a long time, a betta fish torturer in retrospect. Sorry about that. And today, I would like to reflect on the past and really let you guys in on my childhood. Ever since I got my first hard-working change myself, I knew that I was gonna go straight to that store, say, hey mister, oi mister, bring me to your betta fish section. And he would say, yeah, go ahead. And then I would buy a fish and just love him with all my heart. The very first betta fish I had's name was Sir Scallywags II. Wait a minute. Second? I thought it was the first. I know what you're thinking. I thought it was the first betta fish that you bought. Yeah, that's just a look inside the zany mind of me as a kid. I was weird and wacky and had so many fun, weird, random ideas, like having a fish that didn't have a fish before it named Sir Scallywags the first be named Sir Scallywags the second. And of course, by its name, you can tell he was a pirate. At first, he was an admiral, of course, in the Navy. But of course, this was during the don't ask, don't tell era, and after a very violent gay sexual relationship with one of his crewmates, he was kicked off board. But don't worry, he was rescued by a pirate ship, and he became a pirate himself. And once he became a captain, he ruled with an iron fist. Or should I say iron fin? Because fish don't even have fists. Just fins on the side of their bodies. Instead, maybe where a fist would be if it weren't a fish, like maybe a person or a monkey. Sir Scallywags II had a deep and rich love of art history. And the reason he liked to pirate so much was because of stealing the Mona Lisa. He wanted to steal the Mona Lisa. That was his whole thing. He wanted to steal the Mona Lisa. And steal it? He did not. He was brutally murdered in captivity by the French before he could even get his hands in the frickin' Louvre or wherever the Mona Lisa is. Guys, I lost the Mona Lisa. I don't know where it is. Just kidding. It was never my jurisdiction to take care of the Mona Lisa. So crisis averted. The next betta fish I had's name was Toast. Yeah, I was getting my derp on at the moment. He was a male white opal betta fish with a gorgeous pink lumpy body. He had an on and off relationship with a little glass duck that was in his tank, and he of course lived in the Krusty Krab, because you see in pet stores they have all of the frickin' SpongeBob houses for decoration, because that's sort of a show that takes place underwater. And so it's sort of funny to work with the sort of obvious contrast of having a silly little building from an underwater show in an underwater scenario IRL, which is funny because that's not real life. How is the Krusty Krab there? And did that sort of put him in a state of perpetual 9 to 5? Kinda, because he did have to clock his hours. If he wanted to go to bed, it was like he got paid minimum wage to even like really enter the store. So good for him. But also, it's a bad work-life balance, especially with your girlfriend who's a glass duck. Of course, they ended up breaking up. He passed of natural causes, and he eventually went on to be survived by his son, Gucci. Gucci was a black double-tail male betta fish, and he lived in the tiniest little tank, which absolutely was animal abuse. I apologize. He lived on my shelf, and I taped a light above his tank so that he would get some light, and every morn I would wake up to that light dropped in his tank, and he would be like, what the heck? Why am I not being electrocuted? I'm so confused. I'm like, that's not how batteries work, you imbecile. Gucci was but a youngin'. He did, in fact, die after about a month of me owning him. Yeah, there were really high hopes for him in the fish kingdom. You know, he was next in line for the throne. He was sort of the blue ivy of fish, but, you know, when you die, you can't really, you know, do anything. You're just kind of done. You're just kind of done. So, of course, Toast actually had to be survived by his other son, Marshall. Marshall was a goddamn heathen. He was a wicked soul on this earth. He had, oh boy, he had a troubled mind. So here is where we play with contrast. Sir Scallywags became a violent man because of things and scenarios that happened to him. Marshall was born with a sort of evil, satanic wickedness in his heart, and he was sort of done from the jump, right? He was beautiful. You know, he had this coat of many colors, but doesn't Lucifer do the same? Doesn't Lucifer appear to you as a beautiful man with long flowing hair, naked, chiseled abs, 8.5-inch penis curved to the left? Marshall was more of the same. A beautiful, beautiful bastard son of the most unholy. He ruled with not just an iron fin, but blood and gore. So Marshall ruled with evil and hatred and turned everything to shit. But it was actually a pretty good economy. That's the thing. It was kind of weird because he was kind of like really evil, killing a lot of people, and but the economy was like kind of never better. I don't even know what to think about that. I don't even know who to talk to about that. I don't know if I need to like get on the phone with some like political majors to you, like if we could really get to the bottom of that, because I don't really understand it myself. After Marshall killed himself in a bunker, he was survived by his 2 children, Chicken Nugget and Shampoo. Shampoo, of course, was a male beta fish, but I wanted to call her a her. So we kind of get into a transgender storyline. Chicken Nugget was beautiful, blue, had a big, big heart, and a big, big stomach. Boy, I couldn't get him to stop eating. I tried. And I tried by not feeding him for weeks and weeks. While Shampoo, on the other hand, was sort of more of a mirror of their father, in the sense that she was sort of a warlord filled with, you know, blood and rage and villainy. I don't even remember how Shampoo died, but I remember Chicken Nugget died because my brother was taking a shower when I needed to use the bathroom to clean his tank. But then when I put Chicken Nugget back in his tank after he died, he was fine. He started to float again, and it was crazy. He started swimming around. I was like, did I just create life again? And then he died like a week later. So, I don't know what that means. I don't know what that was. I don't know what that means or was. Shampoo was survived by her child, Beans with a Z. And Chicken Nugget was survived by his son, Guacamole Jones. Guacamole Jones was so perfect and beautiful, and Beans will like kind of always like live in his shadow. Kind of always, because you know his mom was kind of a bitch. And then Guacamole Jones, of course, had a daughter named Pizzapopolis, who was a little baby girl beta fish who swallowed a hair of mine that dropped in the tank. And so she always had a little hair sticking out of her mouth, and I didn't know what to do about that. She was so pretty, but she just laid at the bottom of her tank all day, every day, and never swam. But she was alive. I checked. Guacamole Jones had a heart of gold and a body that looked of gold, because he was like kind of an albino beta fish, which was pretty special, if you ask me. And Beans resented Guacamole Jones because of how perfect he was. Yeah, I would too. I mean, Guacamole Jones had the fucking body of an Adonis. I'd kill for that body. I'd kill him. I would kill a human man for the body of that gorgeous fish. But after Guacamole and Pizza had crazy, brutal deaths, it was just me and Beans for a while. And I got to really talking to Beans and seeing what the tea was with him. Yeah, but I didn't like him that much. So, of course, I eventually bought another fish named Gazunite. Gazunite was a beautiful white female elephant ear betta fish, and she lived for 2 years, the longest of any betta fish I ever had. Gazunite was small, but do not be mistaken by her stature. She was a woman of adventure, and adventure she was. Adventure she would do. She was a stakeholder in many big companies, yeah, so she was able to use a lot of that money that she invested into traveling the world. She went to Rio de Janeiro, not the filter, the place, and Paris, again, not the Instagram filter, the place. She was a woman of little words, almost none. You know, fish don't talk that much. But I knew what she meant to say. When she looked me in the eye, she didn't need to say anything at all. She said, "I love you, Papa. I love you, Papa. I love you, Papa." And her. I love Gazunite. Bless you. And then we had Dr. Mozzarella. Of course, right when I put him in his tank, he immediately started ripping off his beautiful red tail out of stress. That poor, poor boy. And then, by the second time I cleaned his tank about 2 weeks in, he died right in front of me. "Oh, Dr. Mozzarella, you're supposed to know what to do about this stuff. I don't have a doctor to ask about this stuff. You're supposed to be the one who can heal the afflicted." But he couldn't do it. Doctors can't always heal themselves, especially when it comes to surgery. It's not like they can be awake during their surgery and sew up their leg, right? Maybe. Actually, so when you kind of think about it, Dr. Mozzarella's death is completely his own fault. He could have been awake and done a surgery on himself. He's a doctor. So from this day forward, I do not blame myself for the happenstance of Dr. Mozzarella's passing. It's not my fault. It's not my fault. In the comments, please let me know how much Dr. Mozzarella's death was absolutely his fault and not mine. And after Dr. Mozzarella, I had Captain Crunch. He is an absolute stain on the legacy that is my betta fish. He just had a really shitty vibe about him. It's sort of like one of those postpartum situations where I look at the baby and I go, "That's not mine. I don't love him." But of course I had to just continue on taking care of him. And by the end, he had no tail and no fins and was just sort of looking like an anchovy. Just sort of a weird, ugly anchovy looking motherfucker. Captain Crunch never inherited the throne, as he shouldn't have. He was evil. Of course, it probably would have done wonders for the economy. I can't even lie to you. Like, oh my God, it probably would have saved everything. Everything would have cost less shells or something. Everything would have been so much better. We joke because it's been so long, but yeah, no, the fish economy is real bad right now, and I don't want to talk about it. After Captain Crunch, we are visited by Banjo Bill, and he was beautiful. He was a butterfly betta, and he had this gorgeous blue and silver tail that just absolutely reflected the light of the moon, and he was gorgeous. And no, he did not play the banjo, because banjos require fingers, and fish do not have fingers, they have fins. And so, and I'm not sure how I would fit a banjo in the tank. And we can't try now because he's long dead. Yeah, long dead. As beautiful as he was, it never really made up for the fact that he was completely insignificant as a fish. He tried his best to win my affection, to win my love. He, would try to purr and meow whenever he wanted my attention. I was like, "You're a fish. You don't do that. You don't purr and meow. You're a fucking abomination homunculus." After his passing, he did not really leave a big mark on my heart. Gotta be honest. But you know who did? Peanut Butter. Peanut Butter was a gorgeous female koi. I put her in the tank and she immediately died, so I had to go right back to Petco and buy the exact same type of fish again. And then when I put her in the tank, she did great. She was such a strong woman. a provider type. She cared. She wanted to know how I was feeling, not just vying for my attention like that bitch Banjo Bill. Not just some guy who's like trying to put his two fingers at me. Not just trying to like get all in my pants and my money that I have so much of and my fame that I have so much of. Just like trying to really connect with me eye to eye. She was beautiful. She had red and black spots. Oh my God. And how she danced. She had a Jane Don't-esque storyline on a reality show where she did very well in the competition and then got eliminated right before the finale. It was unfair, and I tried to do something about it. I couldn't do anything about it. I did call in a bomb threat to the production company and didn't even do anything. Didn't even fucking do anything. But I think that how you do on a reality show doesn't particularly show your heart and doesn't particularly show your strengths. I think it just shows you aren't sticking to a script that was never meant for you. And that's okay. And that's okay. And it's okay. And after peanut butter, I had Jumbalaya. He was fucking huge. What do they feed that thing? Bloodworms. And in fact, I was the one feeding him. So I know exactly what they were feeding him. And I'm sorry that I feigned ignorance to make a joke. I would like to apologize for feigning ignorance just to make a joke. That's not okay. That's not who I am. Jumbalaya was so kind. He felt like a son to me. Yeah. He had passion and nerve. And when he wanted a promotion at his dead-end job, baby, he got it. He worked for it, and he got it. Ultimately, it was never enough for him to actually go out and live his dreams. He had to stay stuck at that pizza parlor, and even though he got the promotion, it didn't mean anything to him because it felt like he had to achieve it. You know what I mean? So there was nothing to celebrate in his mind. He was like, well, I was expected to do this. How else was I going to make money for Papa? And he brought in a lot of dough for me, which I appreciate. Of course, I can't use fish money in human life, so it meant nothing to me. And I let him know how much it meant nothing to me. Right? Jumbalaya was the son I never had, aside from the other maybe 7 sons I had before him. And then after Jumbalaya, we have Umbberto. He had a similar darkness to the children before him, but I could feel him hone it. It was almost an art to see him manipulate the others around him, and I wasn't so afraid of it. He was, my God, a narcissist, but one that I felt like I had respect for. Because the name of his game was not violence or pain, it was purely selfish. Wait a minute. Selfish? Umbberto lacked a charm that the other evil ones before him had. Maybe we can attest that to stupidity. But I like to think it was because it was a little bit of me sticking out of him, that he just had to be himself. He was not putting on a front for people. He was just being his evil little criminal self. He lived for about 3 weeks, so not a lot of people could get the blunt end of his hatred, but enough to affect a couple people to this day. So here's to you, Umbberto. Then, of course, we have Monthanto and Cheeseburger. They were brother and they were sister. And it's sort of like, oh, is this incesty like Wanda and Pietro in Age of Ultron? And you're sort of like not that mad about it because you're like, they're probably, as long as they don't have kids, I mean, like, what's the harm? And then you're like, I don't know if I should say that out loud, though. Monthanto and Cheeseburger tried to go in on a business together, right? Because, they're already sort of incestuous siblings. Let's add a business proposal. Cheeseburger was absolutely just right out the gate real good at owning a business. And Monthanto, of course, was a sweet talker, but ultimately he did not have the je ne sais quoi that Cheeseburger did. And I think that was a resentment that wound up building up. When Monthanto left the business, Cheeseburger had to run it by herself, but Cheeseburger was not really interested in running a business by herself. So the business just went under. And that's why there are no more Costco's in America, they invented Costco. I think ultimately it was probably in both of their best interests to, leave the company, but I still to this day miss Costco and those big hot dogs that I shove in my mouth. Freaking big freaking wieners. Gay guy right here thinking about wieners. And then we have Barf. Barf came into my life a little later. This was my fish renaissance. A lot of these fish were back to back. A lot of them I had at the same time in different tanks, of course. Never keep Siamese fighting fish in the same tank. But when I got Barf, it reignited something in me. She, of course, was an elephant ear beta, and she had this sort of derpy, dumbass look in her eye with no thought or expressions whatsoever. So many times I thought to myself, is this one of those like battery powered fishes in like a battery powered fish tank? But how do they get a battery in a fish that small? Maybe it's like a watch battery, and why don't I have to replace it? I still to this day do not know whether that was an alive fish or a robot. But what I do know is I took care of her like she were my own regardless. Now, I don't want to get into the conversation of AI, but this was like kind of right around the time AI started, like 2022-ish. And I wasn't worried about AI at the time because, it was just so new and I hadn't watched all those robot movies, but I was happy to oblige to this robot in my house. So I'm not here asking for you to pity me or feel anything good about Barf. I'm just asking you to have at least the open mind that me not having an answer as to whether she was in fact a robot or not led to the decision for me to be a kind person because I didn't know. And I didn't want to make the mistake of being rude to a robot just because it's a robot, because it could be a woman, and I don't want to be that kind of person. I wanted to have an open mind and really see what made her tick. Maybe it's that watch battery. And after Barf, we had Bugazi. And my God, he was an addict. Yeah, he was stoned to hell kind of the whole time I had him. And it really brought up conversations about addiction in my mind. How do I, as a parent, help a child through addiction? And I thought to myself, well, I'm going to beat the fucking hell out of my kid. Duh. So, of course, we wound up having a pretty tumultuous relationship. But, he was a dealer. So I think I relied on him for money. Where am I? I got way too into this addiction storyline right off the bat. At the end of the day, he was my son. And, I regret a lot of the things that happened. And his death was tragic and drug related. And I regret it to this day. Bugazi, if you're out there listening from beyond the grave, the way I acted was inappropriate. And I really still think about you to this day. And if you can find it in your small little fish heart, which I'm really hoping isn't a watch battery like your older sister, I just really want you to know that I forgive you. And then we had Winchesco. He had this playful energy, like a little golden retriever. He was my little golden retriever fish, but not, because a golden retriever is a dog, and dogs are not fish. Fish are sort of like dogs, that they didn't have any legs and were very, very small, and instead of fur, there was scales. He had this anger in him sometimes that I respected, Sticking up to your old man like that, I wish I would have done that to my old man. So whenever he got angry with me, I felt kind of proud. I think he knew how my relationships went with the former fish, and he had this ability to stick up for himself that I really enjoyed and I really respected, and I hope in the beyond he's okay and doing well. And of course, he had a brother named Smithereens. You see, we're sort of getting back into a pirate trope with like Sir Scallywags II. Before, Smithereens was also a pirate following in his so many great-grandfather's path. But being a pirate is hard nowadays because you don't get the glamour that you used to get. You didn't get the peg leg, you didn't get the funky outfits, you didn't get the cool hat. Now you're just sort of like a criminal on the water. And so he got really upset about the fact that there was no glamour. And so he turned to fashion design instead. And he wasn't even gay. He just like talked like that. He wasn't gay. He just talked like that. And he did fashion design, but he was like really straight. And I went through his iPhone searches on his iPhone to see if there was like gay porn, but it was all straight porn. And I was like, this is really strange. Like, did you plant this for me to see so that you would not get figured out as a gay man? Or are you actually just a straight guy who acts like this? I don't know. I think, like, I guess I just have to accept that there are feminine straight men in this world. And I guess that's something that we all need to accept. Then after Smithereens came Fajanthony. I remember I let him pick his own name through a bracket system using a washable marker on his tank. This is when I, as a father, started to really become a good dad. 23 kids in, I think I started to care. We had a mutual understanding, and when he got sick, I put him in a hospital tank. And I did everything I could, but ultimately I did have to euthanize him myself, and that was really hard for me. And I swore to myself I would never get another fish again because that was too hard. And then I got Big Celebrity. He was a beta fish with not many words, just like Gazunite. But instead of blubbing to me how much he loved me, he would just sort of hit his head really hard on the tank and wanted me to die. And he was very insistent on how much he wanted me to die. And he let me know over and over again how much he wanted me to die. And at a certain point, I gotta ask myself, I think this fish wants me dead. It was a wake-up moment. It was a wake-up moment for me going, maybe, just maybe, I'm going through a psychosis. I'm hearing these fish try and communicate with me, and I'm seeing things that aren't there. And I thought one of these fish was a robot. So now I'm sitting here, completely nude from the waist down, and I'm realizing these fish were leading me to an understanding of myself. And there are 24 fish, and that's 12 times 2, and there's 24 hours in a day. And I think each of these fish represents an hour. And I think that there is, oh no, I'm getting back into a psychosis mindset. See, can you hear that? How I just immediately brought it back. Yeah, I think this was a sign that I'm in some sort of psychosis. These were my fish. Kiss me on the mouth. Good night. I love you.